What's up, YouTube? It's DJ here at Topic Cards and Game with my man Glenn.
And we have a deck profile for you today of the fusion build of the Red Eyes deck, which is very interesting. It's a lot of fun, and I'd say it's semi-competitive.
Yeah, no, one of the main reasons to play this over build without the fusion is even though you have a ton of bricks, it just puts a million damage on the board for free because this card's broken.
Yeah, this guy literally will just straight up win you games.
Yeah, I mean, just for playing a spell with no cost whatsoever other than, you know, loading your graveyard for effects you already play, you get 5,600 damage that your opponent can't really interact with. So you get a ton of value out of that, but let's just get into the list so you guys can see what we're talking about. First we have 3 Red Eyes Black Dragons. It is a Red Eyes deck. And this bro...
You need 3 of the vanilla over the Gemini just because you need to be able to send the vanillas to the deck with the Red Eyes Fusion.
Yeah, your Gemini monsters don't count as effect monsters in your, or as normal monsters rather, in your deck. So you have to play more of the vanilla Red Eyes. And it's rarely really relevant. It's going to be a level 7 normally anyway. You're not really going to do that much with it, though it is nice to have the option. But we do also have 2 Red Eyes Black Flare Dragons.
You never actually second summon this guy, but if you do, his effect's actually really good. You get a lot of burn damage out of him. He's just a level 7. He's normal in the graveyard, so he works with all your stuff.
Yeah, but in general, we just wanted 5 Red Eyes instead of, like, you know, just 3 that you would have with just playing vanilla Red Eyes. So we have 2 of the Flare Dragons. After that, we also have 2 Summon Skulls to go with our fusions. Just has to be vanilla Summon Skull, unfortunately, but yeah, the upside on having the fusion kind of outweighs the cons on playing garbage Summon Skull.
And even once he's in your graveyard, he's still useful. You'll see that later in the deck profile.
Yeah. So there's our big dudes. Then we have 3 Blackstone of Legends. It's kind of the card that makes the deck go round. It really just does everything you need to do, whether that's finding Red Eyes to get to your hand or just putting them into play for basically free, just the cost of your normal summon.
Yeah, he's a Lone Fire Blossom, if you guys didn't know, and he gets you any of these guys, which is awesome. So
yeah. And then, when he's in your graveyard, he's got value too. You can shuffle back in to add a Red Eyes to your hand.
Yeah, he shuffles, like, if you shrine for it, you can send a Red Eyes in this. Either one, because it checks engrave. And you can send this, and then you can shuffle that guy back and add this to your hand, and it's just really useful.
Yeah. Does a ton of stuff. Then we have 2 Black Metal Dragons.
This guy is a little bit slower right now, but if it goes to the graveyard from the field at any point, you get to search your Red Eyes Fusion, which is awesome. Or you get to search one of your trap cards or Red Eyes if you have the draw card. And he'll also boost up your guys by 600. So if you Red Eyes Fusion for this guy, his name's Red Eyes Black Dragon, and you can make him 3,800 instead of 32.
Which is just, again, a ton of damage.
And enough to get over towers.
Right. Then we have 2 copies of Maxi. Just something to slow the game down a little bit, kind of let everyone play on art base. This deck's not blisteringly fast unless you draw Red Eyes Fusion, so...
It's just a card that keeps you in the game against BA, against Necros, whenever, you know, you're just a little bit slower, so...
Yeah. Then we have 1 Keeper of the Shrine.
This card's an interesting card. What I like most about him is that he is a dragon card. So you can shrine and dump a normal monster and then dump this into the graveyard. And anytime one of your dragons dies, you can special summon this back from the graveyard. If it's a normal monster, you get to add a normal dragon back to your hand, and then this counts as 2 tributes for a dragon-type monster. So he's actually kind of useful. And then he has a big defense, so...
Yeah, it just does a ton of stuff. Really cool card, a lot of value.
Very versatile, too. So.
Then we have 1 Red Eyes Darkness Metal.
Yeah, believe it or not, this guy's actually not that good in this deck, outside of just doing silly OTKs and stuff.
Yeah, it's not like you have a ton of sweet combo plays or anything with it, but it does just provide a million damage for basically free sometimes. So.
And he's still a Red Eyes name, so...
Yeah, so it's worth keeping him in your deck, even though you can be kind of win more a lot of times, but free wins are free wins. Then our last monster is 1 copy of Kinkabaya.
This guy is going to, strictly at the moment, just get back the stone, and from there on you contribute that for Red Eyes. So that's really useful.
One thing you could do that would be interesting is if you played Veilers instead of the Maxis, get those back in synchro with them, but for right now I'm more on Maxi, and yeah, so right now he just gets us more Blackstone effects, which is obviously really important.
He becomes really useful once we get the Beast Eyes Pendulum guy, which is in the next set, and it's really useful. Just being able to bring back the Black Metal Dragon, and then Contact Fuse, and then get a search. So.
Yep. Alright, so on our spells we have 3 cards of the Redstone. It's just a draw card. It's our Sacred Sword of 7 stars for our deck.
And it also lets us dump another Red Eyes, a level 7 Red Eyes afterwards, I believe.
Yep, so it just fills our bin up for us really well, lets us function, but it's just a really strong card. Then we have 3 Red Eyes Fusions.
So this is the card that literally just like lets you win games. You play this card and you feel like you're just going to win the game immediately. You can bring out this guy or that guy. So what this guy does, like he's an Armades who also will burn you for like 2,400 damage.
So he basically attacks for 56, and your opponent can't respond at all through the attack.
Very useful.
Yeah, really strong
yeah,
card.
yeah.
And
So
his name becomes Red Eyes when you do it with this card. The downside is you can't special summon or normal summon anymore that turn.
But whenever you have this guy rolling, it doesn't really matter, to be honest.
It's so much damage that you're going to be able to squeak out the last bit of damage later. Then we have 3 Dragon Shrines.
Like we said before, it lets you get the Blackstone Legend into the graveyard if you have a slow hand, and it lets you get to your hand essentially, so it just tutors for it.
Just
Also
fills your
lets you
graveyard up.
put this guy into the graveyard, so you don't have to worry about that. So it's really useful.
Yeah, main thing honestly is that it fills your graveyard up for those effects, and so you can play Silver Scry, which we have a full 3 copies of.
You might think that 3 copies is cloggy, but anytime a Red Eyes is engraved, this card is just nutty. Like you can instantly go into their new Exceed, this guy, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and or any rank 7 really.
Yeah, the big value of this deck is it plays a lot outside of the fusion spell, like a really watered down Dragon Roller deck. You make 7s with much more cost than Dragon Rollers did, but this card helps you facilitate that. Just a 1 card to put a level 7 in play, so you can play with your extra deck, which has a ton of utility at the rank 7. So it's just a really strong card in the deck, and it puts a lot of damage in play.
Yep. Let's use the OTK real fast.
Then we have 1 copy of 1/1.
Gets the Blackstone, which is the card that makes the deck go around. So.
Yep. Other than the fusion, Blackstone is the card you really want to draw, so we have an extra way to get to it. Then just for some interaction, we have Raigeki and Book of Moon.
Raigeki lets us clear the board, OTK, and then Book's just for disruption. So
Yep.
very standard stuff.
Onto our traps. First thing, we have 3 Return of the Red Eyes.
So whenever I was first building this deck, I thought this card was actually really bad. And then I kept reading it and then kept messing around with it, and I figured out that this card actually is amazing. What it does is if you have a Red Eyes on the field, which this guy will be a Red Eyes with the fusion, at any point you can just special summon a, one Red Eyes monster, or 1 normal monster in your graveyard, so that includes Summon Skull. And then if this card dies on the field, you get the special back of Red Eyes, which is just nuts. And it's once per turn too, so it's pretty, this is pretty useful.
Yeah, it's a really strong card. It does a lot, it gets you a lot of guys in play. It seemed slow and clunky at first to me, but it ended up not being that way, so really sweet card. It gets a ton of value. Then we have 3 Breakthrough Skills for protection.
It's literally for Trishula.
Yeah.
Either Trishula.
It also kind of disrupts any Monster Flood your opponent might play. You have a bit of trouble playing through a Vanity's Fiend, but
yeah,
there's not a ton of main board Fiends right now anyway. But yeah, mostly it just negates Trish.
And I play Breakthrough over the Phoenix Chain because it gives you 2 uses, which is really useful. So.
Yeah, then just for some one-of traps, we have Solemn Warning and Ring of Destruction. Warning is just a really strong card. Not a ton specific to say about it, really.
Ring of Destruction lets you kill people really fast because it does the burn damage, and then you just drop this guy, and all of a sudden the game's over.
Yeah, if you have a turn 1 slower hand, you can slow roll, set your ring, kind of set up your field a little bit, ring them for a couple thousand damage, then next turn you just summon the fusion, and they're just dead. So it's really cool. It's got a ton of utility as a removal spell, like it always has, but in this deck the damage is super relevant.
Yep. And onto the extra deck, which is, I mean, I'll be honest, you're really only going to be making like 2 or 3 cards out of it. Obviously, this guy, again, he's an Armades, and then he does a ton of burn damage.
Yeah, so when he does damage, you get to shuffle in a Red Eyes, or is it just a normal monster? I believe it's a Red Eyes normal monster.
I think
a
it's
Red Eyes normal monster from your graveyard into your deck, and your opponent takes burn damage equal to that guy's attack. So you're going to shuffle in a 2,400 guy and do an extra 2,400, which means his attack is something your opponent can interact with, and it's going to deal 5,600 damage.
Yep, we play one of this guy. He's actually kind of useful because you can actually bring him back with the Return of the Red Eyes since he's a normal monster. So
it's got some applications. You're probably not going to use it very often, but it is in there just in case if you needed to make some sort of tricky play.
We have 1 Slacker Magician. It's just basically for Kanka plays. If you run out of Red Eyes somehow, or
just if it's relevant, it probably won't be.
Again, don't expect to make it. To be honest,
you have 15 extra death slots. You might as well use them all.
1 Lucky Straight because we have the room for it, and you're never gonna make it. But
if you're in an awful position, you can make a Lucky Straight and try to get really lucky. And sometimes I'd rather be lucky than good. So
he's in there for that, for just that reason. 1 Gaia Dragon, again, you're probably not going to make him.
It's got niche applications, so if your opponent has a low life total with defense position monsters, you can just kill them. So, again, no reason not to play it. We have a full 15-card extra deck, might as well make use of all the slots.
Yep, 1 Odd Eyes Rebellion Dragon, he's 3k. You can actually make him in here, so he's kind of neat.
Yeah, and he just puts a ton of damage on the board. He wipes your opponent's field out, does some burn damage, and can attack 3 times. Like, you can just kill him.
He is very neat. 2 of these guys, I don't know. You don't really need them.
It's a cool card against Burning Abyss, though, being able to negate all their targeting effects.
One of these guys would probably actually be the 3rd Red Eyes Exceed, which we'll go over shortly. But
yeah, it's just the next thing we're going to talk about, I assume.
2 big guys. This is one of the actual guys that we
make a lot.
He is one of the cards from the extra decks that you end up making. He just deals with the most problems, and then
the best way to make them go away is to just put them on your side of the field.
2 of the Red Eyes Exceed.
That would be 3. The card's absolutely insane. Like, your opponent's going to take a lot of damage dealing with it because they're going to have to invest multiple cards generally to get over 2,800 attacker. Especially if they're on a deck like Necros, where they're going to probably need to search out cards and then play cards to Ritual Summon.
And then if you guys aren't familiar with his effect, it's he cannot be destroyed by card effects while it has an XYZ material. And then while this card has XYZ materials, each time your opponent activates any card or effect, you inflict 500 damage to your opponent after it resolves. And then once per turn during either player's turn, so it's a quick effect, you can detach 1 XYZ material and then target 1 Red Eyes normal monster in your graveyard and special it.
So over the course of 2 turns, if you're able to protect your board, it sets up another copy of itself.
Essentially, if you can protect this for 1 turn, you can then go into the next turn with like the trap card, the Return of Red Eyes. You can go into like 2 more the next turn, and then anytime your opponent plays a card, they're taking 1,500 damage.
Yeah.
And they can't Dark Hole or Regeki it or anything. So this guy is actually just really broken. He's a Red Eyes name too, so it's useful for the
Keeping
trap card.
a guy in play for return. It's just really, really strong. Builds an entire board presence on its own. It does a ton of damage on its own. It's one of the big things after your opponent's taken 56 from
the fusion.
The fusion, yeah. They can't afford to pay a life to deal with this guy.
Yeah.
So in your graveyard, it might not be totally set because you shuffle the guy back in with him, but it's still not hard to get 2 7s for this guy.
Yeah. And then for the last 2 slots in the extra deck, we have 2 Dragus X, which, again, you really will probably never make it.
I mean, yeah, you might use it probably doesn't need to be 2 copies. It's something you could probably just have 1 copy of in there just to deal with problem cards as a removal spell. One thing that's not in here that probably could be, because we have Draco, is Vanity, since it creates an indestructible threat.
Yeah.
But it's not in the list right now, so that's not super relevant. You could consider changing that to Vanities to just, like, this guy can't be killed by card effects, this guy just doesn't die. So it'd be a pretty hard Vanities lock in this deck.
Again,
but
it's just up to interpretation. It's however you want to build it. This is just like a base list to go off of.
Yeah, just kind of a starting point. There's a ton of directions you can go with the deck, whether you want to go, like, I don't know, focus more on the Black Stone being in your graveyard. You can use, like, Junk Synchron to make, what in the world's that card called?
Herald of the
Herald
Arclight.
with it to help lock the game up. You can use a Dragoonity engine because Ravine's really, really good in this deck.
You can play Mathematician and Carbonet-ons too, and just...
Yeah.
Like, there's so many different directions. This is the direction we're going with now just because of the fusion, just because Red Eyes Fusion being able to send from deck is just amazing. It's just a free card.
Yeah, one of the angles I want to experiment more with the deck that we didn't take a ton of advantage of in here is there's so many legal draw cards you can play in here. You can resolve 7-star Sword and a Lure of Darkness very easily in this deck. So, I don't know, one of the angles I want to explore more is just playing more draw cards if you go like a Dragoonity route or a route like...
Yeah, especially
Blue
the
card or
Divinity
something, you
roots.
can play cards of
Yeah, card
Consonance.
of Consonance, yep.
Yeah, if you're a Ravine in your deck, Consonance is just free to resolve. So there's just a lot of different directions you can go with the deck. I really like this version, and personally I think the Dragoonity version is pretty cool. Version a lot of people have talked about that I don't like is Heretics.
That's just basically because of the state of the game right now. Necros are never committing cards to the field, so you're never going to get the free special summon off of Tefnuit, whatever his name is.
Tefnuit. Same with Ignites. Like decks like that don't ever put cards on the board, and the reason the Heretic engine works well is because of the Cyber Dragon-esque effect on Tefnuit, getting you started. So when you lose that, the deck just slows down way too much.
Another cool thing about this deck that most people don't realize is that like these Geminis in the graveyard are normal monsters, so if you ever get Tyrant's Throws, you can still keep bringing back monsters.
Yeah,
you have so
which
many
is
normal ones.
super relevant. Yeah, one other thing to consider when you're building this deck actually is playing Tyrant's Throws. If you build a version that can easily spam up normals, you can Tyrant's Throws, and basically no deck this format can play with Tyrant's Throws in play. Ignites can, but that's about it. But there's just a ton of different directions you can go with the deck. This seemed like the one that would just win for most, or win for free the most, so we just went with this as a starting point.
It's a lot of fun too, so I would highly, if you want to play for fun, semi-competitive, like this is definitely a deck I would consider investing in. It is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and
it's certainly a contender for regionals too. And I mean, obviously, it could do fine at a YCS if you're a good player and you put enough practice in and everything. But if you're looking to do well at a regional, something really fun, I couldn't recommend this deck anymore. It's awesome. But yeah, other than that, we'll have tons more stuff coming soon. If you guys have any question about different Red Eyes builds, let us know down below in the comments. I'll be more than happy to talk about them, or maybe even do a video of some other version of the deck if you guys are super interested.
Yeah, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Maybe we'll try and get some gameplay videos up with the deck. Let you see how it works.
Yep.
Let you be the judge of it all.
So we'll have tons more coming soon. And other than that, we will just see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.
Bye.